2009, I gave up everything to buy this system. And for what? The Nintendo DSi, not just a revision like the Nintendo DS Lite was. I mean, believe me, that was a huge improvement. It made something ugly not. But that was all just aesthetics, you know, it looked a lot better, felt a lot better, the screen was better, but the DSi was almost its own little system. This was a DS with more horsepower and a bunch of new features, like 2 cameras, one on the outside and one on the inside. You boot it up, and it has an actual damn operating system. The original DS and DS Lite kind of had an operating system, but it was pretty much like the operating system of a calculator, you know? Now, the DSi pretty much looks like a Wii menu to go. You have all these applications pre-installed, like Nintendo DSi Camera, which had all these fun little things you could do in there. You know, you could take pictures and mess around with them, screw around with them. It was a blast. And same goes for Nintendo DSi Sound, you know? All DSs had a microphone. It's shocking that the original DS and DS Lite didn't have something like this, but on the DSi, you could mess around with little sound recordings of your own, and you could also put some MP3s on an SD card with the SD card reader that's also brand new and included in the DSi. We still had Picto Chat, you know, you can't have a DS without Picto Chat. Like, you can't have me without organs. Web browser, there was a web browser for the DS and DS Lite, the Nintendo DS browser. I was swindled into buying that because I assumed you didn't need a Wi-Fi router to browse online. That was before my family had a Wi-Fi router, so I spent $30 on the DS browser, and I could type URLs on it. Nah, here it's just built in for free, which is, you know, much better. It's a damn web browser after all. And quite possibly the best feature yet, you can put a game in the system and it can read it and you can take it out without the system having an aneurysm. The original DS and DS Lite are like a deer in the headlights when you do anything like this. Like, come on, man. So taking all those things into consideration, the DSi seems to be like a home run of an upgrade, you know? It kind of takes all the minor little issues with the original DSs and just enhance them and just bring this system into, honestly, the 21st century. However, you may forget, life fucking stinks. They removed the Game Boy Advance port on the bottom. Is there any reason why they did that? Well, it's Nintendo, so no. But they seem to make up for it because this DSi connects to the internet and you can access the DSi Shop. There, we could have gotten all these original downloadable titles. I've downloaded loads of games on there. Dr. Mario Express, WarioWare Snapped, Flipnote Studio. There was tons of stuff on this thing. Varying quality. DSiWare on the DSi Shop channel, you know, it was very hit or miss. A lot of games on DSiWare just happened to be kind of like stripped down games that already released via retail on the DS. Like there was like 10 variations of Clubhouse games on DSiWare, and they just happened to be just separate packs of games in Clubhouse games. You know, there was a couple dozen games in Clubhouse games. Well, how about 5 in one that you could just download, or another 5 in another one you could download? You know, like, that was a lot of DSiWare. It was a different time back then. I think developers and publishers were still trying to figure out, you know, what constitutes as a digital only release. Nowadays, literally everything does. You know, almost every quality game gets a physical release, and every single game gets a digital release alongside it. There's really nothing that is like this line in the sand between digital and physical anymore. But back then, it was kind of thought that, oh, digital games need to be bite-sized and tiny. And I think with the idea that, oh, you're downloading this to your system so you always have it on you, meaning you could just crack it out at any moment and just play it for a little bit, shut the system. That's why they decided to release a bunch of little mini versions of already released games, I guess. But DSiWare still had a lot of hefty titles, most notably Shantae Risky's Revenge. That was like the big boy, like, oh, everybody needed to own that on DSiWare. I didn't. But DSiWare only being on, you know, the Nintendo DSi shows how much of like a separate system this really is. You know, there's tons of exclusive things you can only do on the DSi compared to DS and DS Lite. So really, this does kind of feel like a Game Boy Color-esque upgrade to the DS, where the Game Boy Color was kind of its own system, though it was still kind of just like a Game Boy at its heart. Played all the Game Boy games, and there was a lot of games that worked on Game Boy and Game Boy Color, where you pop them in Game Boy Color and they'd be in color, but you could also play them on the original Game Boy. But there was a lot of exclusive Game Boy Color games. They had different cartridges. They were see-through, while original Game Boy games were gray, and Game Boy games that worked on Game Boy and Game Boy Color were black, and they had their own unique box art. Not super unique, but unique enough to tell the difference, like, oh, this is a Game Boy Color game. And with all the unique features of the DSi, most notably the cameras, you'd think they'd do the exact same thing. They did. 3 times. This is the entire DSi Retail Library here in North America. Worldwide, this goes up to a whopping, like 5? I'm telling you, these are some of the most obscure releases in Nintendo system history within the past, 15 years or so. Most of you should probably know about DSiWare. That's pretty much where all the DSi exclusive games were. But what if a game was a little too big for DSiWare? Well, Nintendo offered these publishers the opportunity to release games that only played on DSi at retail on cartridges. They definitely never really advertised this at all. I think if they ever talked about it, it was always just a footnote, like, oh yeah, people can make retail DSi games if they really want to. I think Nintendo was pretty content with keeping everything to be DSi Shop Exclusive, just digital only. I mean, it made things a lot less complicated. So instead of confusing the consumer having to create all this box art saying only plays on DSi, a DSi exclusive, this game only plays on DSi systems, just keep it on the DSi Shop. There's no way somebody can accidentally download a DSiWare game on the DS Lite. If they did, holy shit, I want to meet that guy. But for some reason, these 3 companies wanted to release games exclusively for the DSi at retail. Now, I just recently played all of these games, and these are very bizarre. Because not only do most of these games not really feel like they need to be a retail release, they could just work on DSiWare. Not only that, but many of these games barely use the camera functionality or any DSi exclusive features for that matter, like the improved processing power, at all. Take, for example, this game, Picture Perfect Hair Salon. This has DSi exclusive just plastered all over it, but the DSi exclusive feature is literally just hidden in the avatar customization menu, where you can take your picture and your picture appears on your character. That's it. And guess what? Your character barely appears in the actual game. Most of the game, you're just working at a hair salon, so you're, combing hair with a stylist, so you're not seeing your character. And taking your picture is completely superfluous. You don't even have to do it. So why is this a DSi exclusive? It's a completely 2D game that just uses the same 2D art of all these girls with hair, and you just brush through them, and that's it. There's no depth. It's literally just hey, it's a hair salon game. This customer wants this hairdo, give it to them. Okay, move on and make money and then buy new things with that money. That's all this game is. And the reason it's only on DSi is because of a feature hidden in the menus where you can take a picture of yourself and it appears on your character. That's it. If we look on the back, it says the first DSi game to use automatic face recognition. Position your face correctly and the game will automatically take your picture. I'd ask who's sold, but I think an easier question is who's not sold. Yeah, so this is a very bizarre one, especially considering that many games that released on the DS had DSi exclusive features. So I got iCarly here, as one does. And yeah, this is a DS game. It works on any DS, but it has a little blurb here, includes bonus features for the DSi. So, this is something that any DS game could have done. You have a game that works perfectly fine on regular DS hardware, but you might have a little camera mini game using the DSi. That's possible. So why Picture Perfect Nail Salon has a little feature using the DSi camera and it forces you to play it on a DSi is beyond me. Maybe they thought it was kind of some out-of-box thinking oh, well, we'll be one of the only DSi exclusive games, and because of that, we'll stick out more. What? The only other major thing to note about these DSi exclusive games is the packaging. It's very similar to regular DS games, but it's ever so slightly different. You have a white case on this one, and the side banner with the DSi logo is straight instead of curved. Then you have a bunch of notations that, oh, only plays on exclusive. Have a white case, though it's the same case, it's just white. But then on the side, man, I don't know. Why is it the dual screen part of the logo of the DS? You know, the thing that is before the DS, you know, the two squares. Why is it that? It's for the Nintendo DSi. If you wanted it to be minimalistic, just put the I from the DSi logo, not the two squares from all of the DS logos. And then why is it like smaller than the regular DS one? I don't know. This one always just confused me. And then on the inside, yeah, there's nothing much else different except the DSi cartridge itself. It's white. Kind of like a precursor to the 3DS cartridges. You know, those are pretty similar colors, but, you know, have the little tab on the top. No, these ones are just white, you know? Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, that's Picture Perfect Hair Salon. We're almost halfway through the DSi library. Photo Showdown is another weird one where I'm kind of like, why did they box themselves into only being on the DSi? And I have some, you know, sneaking suspicions why. This is pretty much a Pokemon-like game. It's an RPG, you know, you battle monsters between each other. That's pretty much it. But to find those monsters, you take pictures. That's it. You take out your camera, you take a picture, and it's kind of like a random chance that a monster is just like, oh man, scan the picture, oh, we found a monster. Now, I didn't get that far in this game. I played enough to just get the general gist, mainly because I don't really know many people that are like, all right, I wanted to just brush upon the DSi exclusive library, so I played about 5 hours of Photo Showdown, and I'm still not qualified to talk about it. I'm going by that logic, I was not qualified to talk about this game either. It's quality enough for what it is. It just seems very much like it was really going after that Pokemon market. You know, the kids that would wake up in the mornings and watch 4Kids TV. Yeah, it's fine enough for what it is, but you know, it's just like. You really need the camera part in there? Just take a picture to find a monster? You know, like, it's just, that's where the title comes from. I get it, but it's also like, it's not necessary. And that's kind of the whole thing. That's probably why it was exclusive to the DSi Retail, because like, there's not much else that really helps this game stand apart other than the fact that, yeah, you take a photo to reveal a monster. But that's it. It almost feels kind of like how Monster Rancher on the PS1, you'd put your music CD in the PS1 and it would read it and it would generate a monster from that. Like, is that really necessary? No, but it's kind of cool. I mean, from a kid's perspective, you could maybe get some coolness factor out of this, but I mean, playing it, like, it doesn't really do anything that interesting. It's just kind of take a picture and it might show, like, a monster might kind of appear from it. It doesn't even appear from it interestingly. It's just kind of like, oh man, we found a monster sighting, and that's all it is. But structurally as a game, this is probably the most game-like of all the DSi games. It is what it is. It's Photo Showdown. There's not much else to it. It's a fine kids game. Weirdly enough though, this one comes with a black case, you know, same white cartridge, but every time I've seen this game, it's had a black case. So I don't know, because the third game and the only other game to release here in North America has a white case as well, and that's System Flaw. You know, Face Raiders on the 3DS, it's that but worse. I mean, props to them for actually kind of making something like that game with the original DSi. You know, that's definitely a little impressive because, you know, they had a lot less horsepower to work with, and they were pretty much only working off of the fact that, you know, like there's a garbage little camera here. The 3DS was designed a little more with augmented reality in mind, even if it still was, you know, a little crude. But the fact they were able to pull it off in the DSi, there's something to say about that. Is there any reason to play it now? No. It is just the same damn thing all the time. It's just like, oh man, you know, you move your DSi around and you look through the camera and you find monsters all around you. You know, you just move it and then you shoot at them with the L or R button, and then you try to find more. You shoot at them with the L or R button. That's it. This was a really shallow game. You know, back in the day, it might have been kind of cool, but it's just very basic. This really does scream to me DSiWare game. Something you download for $5 and that's it. This really does not work as a retail release. Impressive for the time, I guess, but very disposable. And yeah, those are all the DSi games that came out in North America. There were 2 others, these only released in Europe. There was Face Training. Now, Face Training was a Japan-only game released for the original DS that came with a little accessory that was a camera that plugged into the Game Boy Advance slot. And then they re-released it in Europe only for the DSi. So it's pretty much the exact same game, but you don't need a little camera accessory like in Japan. And then there was Hidden Photo, which was pretty much just you take a photo and it would like scramble it into a little puzzle. That's it. And then there was supposed to be another game called Ghostwire that got canceled like right before it was supposed to launch. So that's the DSi games. Pretty wild to own all these because I never even heard of these when these initially came out. And I was deep into the DSi at the time. Like nobody talked about these. And yeah, after playing them, it's pretty apparent why. These all should have been DSiWare games, or just should have been regular DS games in the case of these 2, with DSi exclusive features, like iCarly. But instead, I guess they kind of took the gamble and made these DSi exclusives just to kind of get that rush, you know? Like, oh man, there's not many DSi exclusive games, so I just have to pick up System Flaw. Yeah, you just have to pick this up. You know what you should also do? Probably wipe your ass. Like, Jesus Christ, take better care of yourself.